What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Snowcast Sports Talk Podcast, episode 17. And guys, we have a special guest with us today. You know, I think the past few guests I've had on have been people I listen to a ton, people who I have a lot of very similar opinions as. And this guy right here inspired me to have him on because I need someone who I have some disagreements with. Copizzle, how we doing today?
What's up, Will? How you doing, buddy?
Thank you, first of all, for being on. I appreciate it. The layout, as I said right before we started, I want to go through a couple of some of the takes maybe over the past few months. I don't really want to dive into all the past. I feel like every podcast I kind of talk about Joe Judge and Gettleman. Talk more about the recent stuff, talk about some stuff we disagree on, agree on, and then, let my viewers and my listeners get to, and maybe your listeners too, maybe get to know you a little bit better. Some questions about starting YouTube and all that good stuff. So, with that, I commented on one of your videos last week about Kayvon Thibodeau. We pronounce it differently. That's how much we disagree on this. But I just wanted to give, maybe let you go first and just give your take on Kayvon. I think you've been getting a lot of love and hate on YouTube and Twitter with these Kayvon takes.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, Kayvon, I don't mind the player. I really don't. I do think that when you look at some of his collegiate games, most notably the big games, I think he kind of disappeared in spots. However, there were moments where he did play in some of those games where he was either double teamed or he was potentially playing injured. I'll cut him some slack on some of those things. But my issue with Thibodeau is not so much the player himself. It's the fan base and the expectations that a player of his I'm concerned about, he's obviously got a big personality, right? Like
Of course.
he seems like a character, and when you're a great player, you can act that way and you can back it up. But there's three instances in recent years where the Giant fans have, in my opinion, potentially hurt the player. OBJ is one example where, we as Giant fans claimed that he was the best receiver in the league, if not top three best receiver in the league. And the reality is that OBJ was a solid player, was a really good player for us. But as Giant fans, we gave him these crazy expectations. And yeah, was there moments where he won us the game single-handedly? Absolutely, there were times he did that.
Yeah, the Ravens game in 16, and then I think that Eagles
the
game
Cowboy
too.
game. The Cowboy game in 16 as well. I mean, we won 10 to. I was there that night. We won 10-7.
It's a cold game.
It was a cold ass game. I was freezing my butt off, but yeah, I mean, he's won. But the reality is that we gave him this huge platform as Giant fans, and does the kicking net thing happen? Does the ESPN interview happen where he basically dogged Eli out? I mean, we gave him this huge platform, and it just seemed like he wasn't capable of handling that moment and that time, and it was all because he had a big personality. He had a huge personality. Then the Giants obviously bring in Saquon, and we as Giant fans, we go around saying that he's a generational talent. I'm a huge sports fan. To me, a generational talent is Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders. These guys played multi-sports at the highest level and were really good at both sports. Shohei Ohtani, and currently in the Major League Baseball, he's a generational talent. Dude is damn near a Cy Young winner and is hitting 40 bombs a year. I mean, that's a generational talent. Saquon Barkley is a great athlete and does great things, but we have these huge expectations for him that he can't meet. And it's not even fair to him, the player. Like, I think he's a good dude. I think he works hard. And don't get me wrong, I'm excited that the Giants drafted him. I don't want to sit here and claim that I didn't want the Giants to draft him, because I did. I was naive at that time because Eli was still on the team, and I wanted them to make a run, and I thought Saquon would help them make a run with Eli.
Of course. So the one thing when I was listening, and I want to pick apart a little bit right now, is I think the Giants fan base and also the media, you brought this up too, and I do agree with it, but the reason I disagree with, the reason I love the Kayvon pick is because no matter who we take at 5, this is going to happen, in my opinion. Because Saquon, if you put Odell in an inverse machine on personality, Saquon comes out. Saquon wouldn't say a bad word about the Giants, even when he can't run 2 yards because the offensive line is horrible. But Odell, You're right. Odell would go out and do it. So, when you came out and you're like, oh, I'm afraid the media is going to do this. If we had taken Sauce at 5, Evan Neal, or anyone else, I think the media is going to blow this up no matter what.
But here's the thing, Will. Here's what's I wish Giant fans would chill on. Okay, this is all. I'm just saying chill.
Okay.
Because at 5, they didn't have any other options but to take Kayvon.
Of course.
That was their only option. I mean, they didn't have. I mean, what were they going to do? Obviously, yeah, they could have. Let's say they really liked Neal, and so they take Neal at 5, and then they trade out on the 7th pick and do know who, whatever they do. But they weren't going to get a receiver. Which after Kayvon went, that's pretty much all that went after that was O-line and receivers. And then it wasn't, I believe, till Jordan Davis, who I think went at like 13 or 14, was the next defensive. Yeah, he was the next defensive player, and they weren't taking Jordan Davis. So, what I'm saying is they got a player at that time. Now, was it their number one player? We're never going to really know. Like, Giants could tell us, but the fact is that, and I say that because who knows if Sauce Gardner is there or Kayvon, do we really know deep down who the Giants were going to take?
See, and this is where we disagree too, because I still think they should have taken Kayvon at 5. I have been
but I think that they also really liked Sauce.
And they could have. Sauce. So the Sauce Tibbs debate is definitely something. I think the point I was
It's a fun debate to have.
Yeah, of course.
And
we'll never know.
We'll never know. But my thing is so, with what actually happened, Kayvon gets picked. The Giants didn't have any option. They had to take Kayvon, right? I mean, obviously they liked him enough to take him, but what I'm saying is they didn't really have any options. They had to take him because of what happened the first 4 picks.
Yep.
You could have even said that they liked Stingley, right, out of who went to Houston.
He wasn't there, yeah.
Yeah, but they might have liked him. Who knows? The thing about that is they didn't have any options. So why make such a, and look, I get what you're saying. He's like a new toy, right? He's a new gift, and there's something for us to be excited about. And I'm all for that.
I
think haven't heard a lot about Evan Neal, even though he was taking 2 spots after him,
which is interesting.
Which is interesting to me because, like, why are you giving all the pub to Kayvon and not Neal? Now, some of you might say, well, this is just unnecessary drama, or this isn't like this is. But I worry about these things because I want the player to just go out there and be himself and play, and not have these weird expectations that the fan base has put on multiple players already that if on this team currently or have come and gone.
I agree. I think the point I was making was when I went through your tweets and videos, you were pretty clearly stating that because of Kayvon's personality, I feel like this is going to be exaggerated and blow up maybe even more. And yes. I guess, and the point I was making was, if you look at Saquon has the best personality out of any Giant I've seen in the past, like maybe 5 years as a leader, and it still has blown up on us. So I guess the only point is, like, where I can meet you and totally understand is when you were talking, and I said it in my comment, I said, yeah, the media messes up Giants players because we put a lot of expectations on guys, and then when it doesn't work out, the higher you rise, the further you fall down. Totally agree with that.
Okay, what you just said there, and that's what the media is going to build the player up.
No matter what.
They're going to build him up. And so you, as the fan and as the consumer, you buy into it. You just eat it up, okay? As I like to say on my post-game videos, you get reeled in, okay? And they do that only so that they can eventually tear the player down and chop him down to pieces.
And I have a problem with the New York media for that. I've been actually very vocal about that.
And I think the New York media hurts all New York sports teams. I think they hurt many teams that are in the New York area, and that's not just a Giants thing, but the fan base, believe it or not, can control the narrative of what gets put out there. if you as the fan base just eat up the fact that, oh, he got the jersey number 5, and you just keep eating it up, well, they're going to keep feeding you that story. They're going to keep giving it to you, and like that to me is worrisome, because at the end of the day, I just want the Giants to win. I just want them to get back to what they should be.
And me too. I don't know if I 100% agree if the fans can. I think the media would pump that out no matter what. And the other thing too is, and I'm guilty of this, I think maybe in your eyes, things get so low for Giants fans, and things have been so crappy the past couple of months. Like, I think we all can agree on that. The fact that we got, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I thought Kayvon was the number 1 player in the draft, just from the film that I watched. Okay. And I'm not a super big college football fan. Once we're Giants fans, I start watching college football in October, because I'm like, oh, shit, we're not going to make the playoffs. Okay, let me start. But either way, and then we got Evan Neal. And so I think a lot of Giants and content creators too, including myself, are just excited because it's moving in a direction, I think, where the past couple of years, it seemed like Dave Gettleman and the Giants content creators, for the most part, were kind of on a different level of what they were thinking they should be done. And I think a lot of Giants content creators, including myself now, are like, holy crap, a GM that's doing the stuff the masses said, not if it's right or wrong. It might blow up in our face, Pizzle, and instead of everyone, well, I'm kind of going on a tangent here. Be interesting to see. I can tell you, for me, if Kayvon is a complete bust, I will own that here. I was a Gettleman sympathizer, and I own that here. And so, but I guess the point I'm making is, I think maybe it's getting a little bit blown out of proportion on your end, where it's like, oh man, we're hyping this guy up too much. I think Giants fans are just happy to see some young, talented players that we're all excited about.
No, I look, I get that. Like, I think what you're trying to say or getting at is, like, on draft night, it feels like we actually won a game.
It did. Pizzle, it did.
We haven't won many games. I mean, let's face it, the last 5 years, at least last 5 years,
it's been horrible.
We've been one of the worst teams in the league, if not the worst. Yeah. I mean, the reality is, we've been a really bad franchise. So I get that excitement. And that's why I'm saying I don't attack the player at all.
I mean, look at your title, Pizzle. You literally said why I don't love it. Like, you weren't coming at him hard.
I don't love it.
But then on Twitter, you go at it pretty hard.
I do. Well, there's a lot of heat on Twitter, and there's a lot of smoke and fire that you can create on Twitter super easily. And it's just, I guess I'm an old school Giants fan. I own that to the core. And when I grew up, a guy like Lawrence Taylor, he's one of the guys that helped turn me into a Giants fan. I loved his passion, but the fact is he backed it up. And I don't think that even a guy like Lawrence Taylor could play today in a social media era, right? I don't know if he works in this era, because who knows. So Kayvon, like, I'm just concerned about because he's been in Oregon, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, he's been in Oregon. It's super quiet out there. Like, Oregon is a lot like Seattle or Seattle Seahawks, where the market, the media markets kind of forget about them. They play late, and they're kind of in their own little world up there, where, in the NFL, all these teams are kind of grouped together, except for Seattle, right? They're kind of on their own little thing. And so I know for a fact that Thibodeau would have been, I think, a great player in a smaller market, and I don't think he would have had any issues. And that would be, but as being this is a huge market, it's just what I'm concerned about.
So my question
about the huge market. I think he's a super smart guy. I will say that. Like, I don't think he's dumb. I think he's smart. I think he's a very athletic player, a good solid player. But I don't think it's fair for him. I'm worried that Giant fans are just going to be like, well, he's going to be Nick Bosa or something like that. I don't think he's going to be that player for us. Cowboys have got Micah Parsons, right? And I think Giant fans are expecting Micah Parsons' performance from Kayvon. I don't think he's that guy. I think we have to be fair and let him be who he is, and not try to make him something that he's not. That's all I'm saying. And I just want us to not ruin the player as a fan base. That's because I feel like we've done that before.
So if hypothetical, let's say there's 15 Giant content creators in the Giants community. let's say like 11 of them stopped hyping up Kayvon, do you think that would be like a net benefit? Because I guess my argument back is I just think the media is going to do it no matter what the content creators or the fans do. I just think the media is its own beast, that no matter what happens with us, the content creators or the fans, I think it's always going to be that way. It's just, it's always going to be overhyped.
I think that there are some beat writers for the Giants that Giant fans collectively think are just ignorant or silly.
Yep.
And that when they put that stuff out there, we don't listen to it anyways, and that it's most of garbage.
There are some that is a thing.
You've already seen Joe Shane basically attack one of them, and
I loved that.
And no, I did too. And that's the point. Is like that guy is stirring up the pot because he knows that there are fans out there that's going to eat up that content. They're going to eat it up. And the OBJ stuff. And look, I hate to go back to OBJ.
No, it's okay. You can.
I even think that there's an issue with Daniel Jones because we drafted Daniel Jones and we give him this stupid ass nickname. I don't know. Sorry if I'm not.
No, go for it. You're all good.
We give him this stupid name of Danny Dimes, and it's like I don't understand why we had to do that as a fan base. Why? What was the point of it? I'm all for having fun and having nicknames and everything like that. I'm all for that, but I'm one of these people that like let the player show that he's a great player before we hype him up, only to give him these crazy expectations, and then now he's not meeting them, so then we think he stinks. Right. And that's just not fair. I mean, when you look at the history of the New York Giants quarterback position, Eli Manning's, I think, clearly the GOAT in that discussion, but even he, never met expectations of being like top 5 quarterback in the league. We've been able to succeed multiple times with Phil Simms, Jeff Hostetler, and Eli Manning, win Super Bowls with guys who just get the job done. Right. And we don't have to have the best quarterback in the league. And so when you give him this crazy nickname and these crazy expectations, sure, you're having fun, but it's like, why put the pressure on a young man who's just trying to figure it out?
I think it's the same argument I gave before. It's just like Giants fans, we've just been beaten up so many times that when because remember, people hated Daniel Jones when he was picked. I will not forget that. People were not happy until that Tampa Bay game, and then yes, the whole shift. I mean, he went 2-2. He beat Washington after that, and then he played okay against the Vikings. And people were just we overhyped it for sure, and now it comes back to bite us.
Just put yourself in his shoes, and I understand there's going to be people who say, "Hey, tough shit. Like you're playing a National Football League, suck it up." I get that, but you're a young man, 21, 22 years old. You're coming from Duke University, okay. You're not a football powerhouse where there's not huge it's a basketball school. You get drafted by the New York Giants, a prestigious franchise in the National Football League in a huge market, and you have one moment in the league, and all of a sudden they're giving you this crazy nickname, having these crazy expectations. It's very hard for any human being to meet those expectations. It just simply is. And then all of a sudden, it's almost like he's a microwaved meal where you're like, I'm done with him because he didn't give me that instant meal that I wanted, and so I'm just going to throw him away and put something else in there. And it's a process, right? It should be a process to let him build up and actually have common sense and say, hey, his offensive line stinks. His coach stinks. He doesn't have any weapons. I'm talking about over time. Now this is a different,
Yeah, we're talking about the past. Yeah,
I'm talking about when Saquon, for example, he played a season basically without Saquon.
Yep.
Didn't even have Saquon. Had a terrible offensive line. No Saquon. Darius Slayton was his number 1 receiver. Nobody is ever fair with him, and so that goes back to the caveat. Are you going to judge him fairly, or are you going to give him these crazy expectations? And if he doesn't meet him, you're just going to call him a bust.
And I think it's something we track, as because we're going to see this. This is all going to play out for us come September. We're going to see Kayvon play his first season, and it's going to be interesting to see what content creators, what fans, and what media members. Because what wouldn't shock me is the media being those first. That first line where every game, how do you feel about not having a sack? How do you feel about not having? And I mean,
exactly.
Pizzle, the Giants agree with you. I don't know if you saw Brian Dable's interview of him, but that was their concern. They're like, okay.
Hey, let me tell you what. I say a lot of stupid stuff. Okay, I know I do. But when I saw that clip, I said, "That's a great question."
It was a good question.
I mean, Dayball, like I love, like it's stuff like that makes me want to support our coach now, right? I mean, he hasn't coached one game for us yet, but it's like, okay, you and I are on the same page because he knows what I feel like. He has the same concerns that I have, and of course, if it comes from a guy like Pizzle, it's just blown off like, fuck that guy. But if it comes from Dayball, it's like, oh, what a great question. But the fact is like I have the same concerns that Dayball has. And asking that because you clearly asked him that and knowing that might be a problem with this player. And again, Will, going back to just having common sense here, he was their only option to draft at that point. So it's not like they had him and another player, because if they picked someone else, a defensive player, let's say Jordan Davis, it would have been called a reach, right? And if you're a first-year general manager, you saw what they did to Dave Gettleman when they drafted Daniel Jones where they drafted him. They ridiculed him from the very end. So if you're a new general manager in Joe Schoen and you take technically a reach, then all of a sudden they're never going to let you forget that. So what do? You play it safe. You take the player where he's supposed to be drafted. You say you liked him, and maybe they did. And maybe he is the best player in the draft, right? Maybe the Giants did get lucky for once, right? It doesn't seem like we ever get lucky anymore, so maybe they did get lucky. All I'm saying is hold your horses. Like, just chill. Like, let him go out there and perform. Let him get a season under his belt. And if he does something great, yeah, he can start wearing the jewelry that says, like LT did it, where it says KT instead, right?
Yep.
And have some fun with it. I'm an old school fan. I want them to earn their respect and their nicknames on the field over time.
And I think that's one of the thing with the Giants too, is and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a newer fan. I'm not as much. I've of course read up on all the history and I've watched all the games. I'm a little bit younger, but I think there's definitely a collide with those two.
There's the Giants fan base is a very cool fan base because, if you look at like the Rams fan base, I would argue that that's probably a very young.
Yeah, of course they switched locations, right? So everyone hates them. So it's just the LA kids that are now getting in the football.
If you probably, I'm trying to think of another, like Seattle's probably a very young fan base too, I would say. But New York and we're kind of like the Packer fans, where it's like there's an old group and there's also a young new group. And so what happens is a lot of times our ideas and opinions, they kind of interchange. They kind of clash on occasion. But that is cool that there is an old school group and a new school. Like
that's what I wanted to do here. So
yeah, and I pride myself on being I feel like one of the old school guys. I really do, because I liked old school Giants football. And old school Giants football was pounding the rock and playing good defense. That's what it is. It was never about having, Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. It was about having Deshaun Watson at quarterback. It was always about having a quarterback who just did his job, handed off the ball, made good throws when he needed to, and the defense won the games. I mean, that's that. And what's crazy is I think that what you're kind of saying, and you're right about this, is like there is a new wave of fans of the younger crowd, and the younger crowd are kind of getting what they want now.
It's true.
Whereas
You're
and
very
so
good transition. Yes.
There's a clash there, because I think the new crowd, and it's going to be kind of hard. I think it's going to be a transition for us old school fans, because what we thought that worked for Giants football, I don't think it's going to change, because I think Dable's going to bring in a whole new philosophy of offense.
Yep.
And our defense is going to be a different. I mean, at the end of the day, good defenses still win no matter how they play. But
look at the last Super Bowl.
I think it's going to be different, right? I think it's a different philosophy. So it is time for like the new school of fans to have their moment in the sun, and
we're either gonna crash and fail, or it'll be great. That's a good point. The question I always ask old school fans, and I guess I want to ask you, and I don't know if I have like a, 100% direct answer on this, but when you look at where the NFL is now, I feel like the Giants over the past few years, we really tried that old school mentality. Joe Judge, pass or fail, he was trying it. And I guess my question is to you, are there any teams in the NFL right now that you can see that they're succeeding with that old school mentality? Because in my opinion, and this kind of goes to the next thing I think we disagreed with, was that Brian Flores, Brian Dable hiring. Because for me, I didn't want Flores at all because I felt like it was just going to be a retread of what Joe Judge was, where good defense, I'm going to run through offensive coordinators every year, and we're going to run the ball as much as we can. I just don't know if that works anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Tennessee Titans kind of did it has done it recently, right? I mean, and they're a pretty good team. Obviously, I think they had the number 1 seed in the AFC last
They
year.
did.
Didn't
They did.
And obviously they muffed it up in the playoffs. But that was kind of a team that had that philosophy of obviously they got Derrick Henry, but a quarterback right in Tannehill who, isn't going to be considered top 10 in the league, right? He's just going to kind of be middle of the road and, just play good defense. And obviously it didn't work for them. And I understand that. I understand that mindset, but like you don't expect, like the Cincinnati Bengals, for example, right? Who would have expected them to reach a Super Bowl? I mean, they were getting ridiculed for drafting Chase and not taking the tackle a year ago, and it's crazy that it worked out. And so, yeah, I mean, I will say that there is you could make a case that the NFL is just simply changing, and
That's
that
what I think.
You either change with it or you die, and maybe that is what was wrong with Gettleman. I'm not going to hide the fact that I was pro Gettleman, and a lot of that was because of the success that he had prior during his regime with the Giants previously. I mean, he was part of a Super Bowl winning team.
Yep.
And so for better or worse, I always support the guys. I mean, look, Eli Manning would probably still be my quarterback if it was up to me, which would be a terrible thing, obviously, probably. But the reality is like I'm just super loyal to guys who have done great things for the Giants before. And so being an old school guy, I thought the approach was right. Obviously he missed on some offensive linemen, right?
Yep.
I think he missed on Will Hernandez. That obviously didn't work out. The Nate Solder signing obviously didn't work out.
You had faith in him, though. You had faith in him.
I had faith in Solder because of this. Obviously Solder had stepped away from the 2020 season, right?
Yep.
Okay, so let's go back. In 2019, I felt like he played hurt almost the whole year long. But
Okay.
I appreciated. I understand this shit doesn't matter, but I appreciate players who, even though that they're hurt, they at least go out there and attempt to try to win, to help the team win. Okay. I think availability is always the best ability to have. And
Yep.
that was Eli Manning's greatest strength.
Yep.
That people never talked about was the fact that you could count on him to play 16 games every regular season. He wasn't going to get hurt. He was always going to be there for you. For better or worse, he was always there. And I thought that was Eli Manning's best ability. That's something that Daniel Jones, in my opinion, hurts him.
A lot. That's my biggest problem with him.
He has not played a full season yet. He's not shown that he can play a full season. And to me, availability is the best thing.
And it's not like he's getting hurt, not at his fault. He plays really stupid sometimes, Pizzle. He runs right. I was at the Eagles game last year.
Hey,
he ran right into it.
Will, when you give him a name like Danny Dimes, and he wants to prove to everybody that he's trying his ass off, because he knows what's going to be said, and it's in a market that wants toughness, he goes out there and does it for you, and then he gets hurt. I'm just saying, there could be a correlation there if you think about it, but the point is Daniel, right? He's not available,
nope.
Right? And so the thing about Solder is he at least tried in 2019. I gave him an excuse. The contract obviously in the end sucked. I get that. But he at least tried. So 2020 he sets out obviously because of COVID concerns, and you completely understand with his family issues of why he would do that. I appreciated the fact that he at least attempted to come back in 2021.
My problem wasn't with him coming back. My problem was after a couple games, Judge should have benched him.
Well, okay, and look, I'd say this to every content creator, Will. I say this to everybody and every fan. Okay, you're going to bench somebody, right? You're going to bench Daniel Jones. You're going to bench. What are you going to replace him with?
I mean, Parrott.
I mean, obviously, okay, but there was obviously something wrong with Parrott.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly there was, and that's the thing is, like, as a fan or as a content creator, you may not get to see inside practices,
and that's absolutely a fair point. And I don't think
And all I'm saying is, if he's you're beating him up, clearly he wasn't playing good. It's obvious as day. And then you go on Twitter or wherever and you just bash the guy. I'm all for beating him up a little bit, but then to just the guy's trying. He's at least trying. There's nobody behind him that's capable of playing because clearly he hasn't shown it in practice. It's not like Judge had an ultimatum. I mean, the dude's he's fighting for his job too. They have to put the best 53 men on the field, and obviously 11-11. They have to put the best ones on the field. That's what they picked, and so it's easy to set, at home, look on your TV or in the stands, and point the finger and say, "What?" At the end of the day, the guy could have just said, "I'm not going to play," and then we would have had Parrott out there the whole season getting killed.
Yeah, and Parrott didn't play much better when Andrew Thomas got hurt. Parrott went out there at left tackle and definitely didn't play well.
And by the way, Solder, if I remember correctly, took a pay cut before the season started.
Yeah, he
acknowledged the fact that, hey, I'm not playing at a great level, and I understand, like, at the end of the day, we as fans just want to see our teams win and lose, but like, can we not give a guy some respect for at least being out there when he's, number one, not hurt, that's the thing that bothers me about the Daniel Jones stuff is like the dude beat the Eagles with a broken freaking neck. And we as Giant fans just say, screw that guy.
Hey, I'm gonna give a shout out to Kid Blue. He said, look what happened after we lost Jones. Look at those last 6 games.
Hey, let me tell you what, Kid Blue stole that from me. Okay. Because no, maybe he did, but I have said for the last 2 years, number one, I think Daniel Jones is the best player we got on the field for us because.
But that's hard though, Pizzle. But it's because that's because the quarterback is so important. That
I get that, but they've made playoff pushes, right? And I understand we had a terrible losing record, and the Washington got the. I understand when you go 6-10, you don't deserve. But the fact is they were making runs
you're right.
in that season and last year. They were starting to play good football. And Daniel got hurt in both seasons, and it was a train wreck from there. And I understand that Colt McCoy went and won a game in Seattle, but
he didn't really win it. He just managed that game, and Gallman played out of his mind, and the defense played well.
Yeah. And but what I'm saying is if Daniel doesn't get hurt, which goes back to the availability thing.
Yep.
If Daniel doesn't get hurt, we might have already played a playoff game, and Joe Judge might still be your coach.
That's a very good point, Pizzle. So first, just quickly,
because if Joe would have made the playoffs,
he wouldn't be gone. He'd still be here.
They would have said last year was a
injury year and a fluke.
Fluke, and we'll give you another year. Joe Judge would still be your coach. But the reality is Daniel got hurt, and look.
I think what cut Joe's job was at the end when he had nothing to play for. He was still playing so conservatively. We couldn't see what we had in guys. I mean, Pizzle, I can't tell you if Jake Fromm's a good quarterback or not. I'm not saying he's a superstar, but we really didn't just let the guy sling the ball. It was like those decisions and those rants at the end. Again, back to the New York media pulling a bunch out of a guy. But
and here's the thing, Will. Okay, and I'm a student of the game of football. I love football just like anybody else, but. Do you ever watch any USFL games that's played right now in the spring?
I've watched the highlights. I haven't watched a ton of it, though.
So do you want to know why the XFL and USFL is bad football? You want to know why it's not great football?
Lay it on me.
It's because they don't have any quarterbacks. And the fact is, the NFL, they cannot even find. You can't even name. There's 32 teams in the league, right? Rocket science shit. But they don't even have 30 good NFL quarterbacks. There's not even 30 of them. The reality is that the quarterback position is super hard, and these guys like Aaron Rodgers, for example, or a lot of like Russell Wilson, they make that position look so damn easy, and it's not easy. It's just simply not. Even a guy like Jimmy G, who's had success is being pushed out in San Francisco.
Doesn't that?
It's but Jimmy G would light up, the XFL and US. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but the fact is those leagues have good players. They just don't have good quarterbacks.
So, but doesn't that kind of poke a hole, though, in your argument before about Daniel Jones being the best player on the field? I would argue he's just in the most important position. I don't know if he's the best player on the field. He's at the most important position on the field because this is where I'm going to level with you, Pizzle. I think I'm a geek because I'm a big positional value guy. And so whenever I see you say geek, I put it in my little script. I'm like, I think I need to level with them. I think I'm a geek. But that's why the quarterback is so important, because when a guy who, Daniel Jones at his best, I'm just being real, is middle of the pack at his best.
Okay, and Will, if that's what you think, that's fine. But the point is it's hard to find a good one.
I agree.
A great one.
I agree.
So you if you think about it, this is and I'm not look, Dave Gettleman's come and gone, right? But technically, Dave Gettleman did the right thing. He picked Daniel Jones over Haskins. He did the right thing. Whether that means anything or not, you had a group of a ton of Giant fans,
including me, by the way. I'm going to own up to this. I was a big Haskins guy.
Wanted Haskins.
Yep.
And the reality is there's a guys that celebrated Dave Gettleman, retiring, being fired, whatever. They celebrated, a lot of things. But the reality is if they would have made their decisions themselves, they would have been fired. You wouldn't be the general manager. If you would have drafted Haskins, you would have got fired too, right? That's the truth. That's the reality. I'll be the first to tell you, yeah. Did I love where they picked Daniel Jones? No. But you can't sit there and play woulda, coulda, shoulda and hope that he would have got to where you think he's positioned. You had to take him when you took him. And so what I'm getting at, Will, is we got Eli, right? Many moons ago, and we got him because really Kerry Collins got hurt. Jesse Palmer has to come in. We're a team that's we're a team that has a terrible season because of injuries, and we finally we end up having a top 4 draft pick, which, by the way, I love Sean Taylor in that draft. I was like, oh yeah, let's keep going with Kerry, because I was all about I loved me some Kerry Collins, which is funny because my favorite number is 5.
Okay.
And he wore number 5.
And now Kayvon's at number 5. It's come full circle, Pizzle.
It's come full circle. But and so I love Sean Taylor in that draft because I thought he was a freak and an animal and just this special player, which he ended up being.
Yep.
God rest his soul. But the Giants made a move and got Eli, right?
To Dwayne Haskins too, by the way. God rest his soul. I just remembered that. Yeah, just as a note. But keep going.
It's crazy to think that Haskins is gone.
Past. Yeah, really sad.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think that. But and look, I don't say that.
No, absolutely.
I don't say that as a man, like just as a football player. That's completely different.
Yep, totally.
So Eli, we get Eli, we get fortunate, right? We literally got a franchise quarterback, and so we took as a fan base, we took Eli for granted. We really did because he was a good player. He even had a year that he really was on an MVP level, but it's hard to be in the talks of that when your brother's Peyton Manning
and Tom Brady's playing.
And Tom Brady's playing. So it's like,
and you have Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers playing.
There's a lot of great
Drew Brees.
There was a stack of them, right?
Yep.
And so we took him for granted. And that was a lot of my arguments on the back nine of his career where people was like, yeah, get rid of Eli's the problem. But
there might be
okay. What are you going to replace him with? Like, that's fine, but what's your plan? And their plan obviously was Daniel. And look, Daniel has some similarities to Eli, right? Maybe that's what Dave Gettleman looked at and said, "Hey, this is Eli Manning 2.0." Granted, he is faster than Eli, but he looks right. I mean, he's got that looks. I mean, he's got the looks, but at the end of the day, it's hard to duplicate a Manning, as great as those guys are. But Daniel, it goes to this point here is like, okay, you want to replace Daniel. I think that he's been the best player, one of the best players, if not the best player on the field for us. That ain't saying much because obviously we've had some losing records.
the
last few years, and I think Saquon's a little overrated.
I do too.
He came back from last year was all about trying to come back from the ACL,
Which is tough.
And I just felt like Daniel was our best player on the field. And when he stepped away, and so here's the thing. To make a long story short, I after looking at it, because Joe Judge and Dave Gettleman as a group, both of them really broke my heart as a fan.
Me too.
They said a lot.
My heart, Pizzle.
They broke my heart, and I know there's a lot of geeks out there. Mike Too Nice is one of them, who loved watching Dave Gettleman fail and this team fail, because they could say that they were right. Which, at the end of the day, if I say something that I feel like is wrong, like if I say, like, for example, Thibodeau, I don't think he's going to work, but he ends up working out, like, I love to eat that crow, because that means the Giants are winning. And that's
it's a good setup. It's a win-win for you. You're either right or the Giants win.
Or the Giants win. I can't. That's the other thing, is like, I can't ever be. I can always win. Like that's
you're hedging your bets.
But if you watch my content on YouTube, I don't know if you'll ever find anybody as passionate as I am about the Giants. I'm up there on the passion. My passion bucket is full when it comes to the Giants. And doesn't mean I'm the number one fan or anything like that. It just means I have a lot of passion. So I want them to succeed. And so when Gettleman and Joe Judge said all the things that they said, I bought into it. I believed it. And when they failed, it broke my heart. It truly, truly, sincerely broke my heart, and it let me down in a lot of ways. So when I see this new philosophy coming in, like Joe Shane and Daboll, and I see what they've done so far, I look at this and I'm like, okay, Daniel, like, this is it.
This is it. Yeah, you're right.
This is it, man. Like, number one, like, I believe in you, because in a lot of ways, I still believe kind of in what Dave Gettleman was saying, right? Because if Daniel Jones succeeds, that means kind of really Dave Gettleman did succeed in some way. Like,
the problem was he couldn't put the team around him. That's the problem with Dave.
He couldn't put the team around him. You're right, but
and there's certain quarterbacks, Pizzle, that elevate their team. This is my problem.
Yes.
And you saw me. I know you don't see me on camera. I'm wearing a Jones jersey. When it comes to Daniel Jones, this is what I say. Do I think he's the guy? I don't. If, like, someone put a gun to my head, Pizzle, and said, will Daniel Jones be the quarterback in 2023? I would say no. That's just my honest opinion.
That's the bet you would take, is he's not going to be the quarterback.
Do I want him to succeed? You bet your bottom dollar I do. All I want is Daniel Jones to succeed. I'm rooting for this kid more than anyone is. Like, I want it to work out. The problem I have with Gettleman, to go back just a sec, the reason I think some people hate on Jones and why people hated on Eli at the end was you see these quarterbacks in this league where I really truly believe, and these are hypotheticals that I can never see play out, which bums me out, that would elevate this team. Like, if we had drafted Patrick Mahomes, that whole Ben McAdoo philosophy from way back, I just think Mahomes, he would have struggled. He obviously wouldn't be as successful, but I think there's just something about some quarterbacks. Like you said, they're hard to find. You put an Aaron Rodgers, a Patrick Mahomes, a Josh Allen, like these guys, not that Daniel Jones isn't a good quarterback. Like, we've seen how vital he is to our team, but I just feel like Jones... The truth is, and then I'll let you go here, the truth is it's a mix. It's not all Jones's fault, and it's not all the team's fault. It's a mix. Jones sometimes makes bad decisions and struggles, and we have not put a team around him to help him. That's really the truth.
And I wanted to make this point too.
Go ahead.
Because it, for anyone that may be a little confused about how I feel about Kayvon, when we're talking about the quarterback, for example, Baker Mayfield there was a talk about maybe the Giants could get Baker Mayfield, right? And ultimately that they didn't have the opportunity because the Browns picked him. But a guy like Baker Mayfield, like, I think it would be awful for him to be the Giants quarterback.
I agree. And notice I didn't say Baker. Baker's not in that top 10 for me.
No, well, what I'm saying is that goes back to, I don't think his personality fits the New York media. And that goes with Kayvon. Like, I'm a little worried about that. And so if Daniel, same with Eli, that even keel, not going to get up too high, not going to get down too low, to me fits perfect for it would be ideal for Daniel to work out.
I agree, but just to go back to the Baker point, if you took Aaron Rodgers, who also has a crappy attitude about everything, I still think he'd make the Giants better.
Like, Aaron's got a little that Kyrie Irving.
Oh yeah, he's a jerk. But he's
Like,
just.
I mean,
But I'm just saying though, he's so much more
but-
talented that it doesn't matter where you put him. I think he'd play well.
but you can see, like, I think New York fans, Brooklyn fans, right? They bought into bringing Kyrie in, and now with what's happened, they're like, I think Kyrie needs to go. You can see
Yep.
it, and I know that. My point being is, I get that why Aaron Rodgers is considered so great because he is a great player, but he does have a crappy attitude, and that would be tough for the New York market. And so with Daniel,
He definitely has the right attitude.
he's
Not
got
going
the
to
right
argue with
attitude.
that. Not
He's
going to
got
argue
the
with
right
that.
attitude, and that's why, as a Giants
I
fan,
want him to work.
I want him to work, and
Yep.
I wish other Giant fans would understand that not every quarterback, even a great quarterback, like even a guy like Aaron Rodgers, like you don't know for sure.
I don't. This is my opinion, Pizzle. I'm not gonna. I just think it would be. But this is a great transition because this is where I think, like, and just gonna lay it out here. Sometimes you and other content creators disagree on certain things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But when I listen to other content creators, like for example, Mike Too Nice, he also says he wants Jones to work out. He's obviously not a Daniel Jones fan, and he obviously wasn't a Gettleman fan. But I don't know if he's out there rooting against the Giants for them to fail. Sure, when a take you get is right, you feel good about it. I've had takes I felt were right that I'm like, dang, I'm good about it. I'm not just singling out Mike. I actually, again, I think I'm a geek. I've watched Mike for a long time. Him and Tana might be the first two Giants content creators that I started watching back in like 2015 or 2016. But I think as a Giants fan base, I think we all kind of are on that page. I think, there's obviously people that want to see Jones fail and they feel good about it on Twitter. But when you look at the content on, YouTube and different platforms to listen to, I think people agree with us. I think people want Jones to work out, but don't believe it will, but want it to happen.
I don't think that there are. I think there are. Let me figure out how to word this correctly.
You could, yeah. I didn't mean. Just it was a good transition. I had this on my.
I just don't think some. I don't think some guys are sincere when they say that they want Daniel to work out because you could see some guys hinting at, oh, this Malik Willis guy would be kind of good. Like they were kind of flirting with the idea of it. Of the Giants getting him.
Yeah, which would be a huge mistake if we did that. Huge mistake.
And you could see them kind of just, I don't know if they were just kind of putting it out there so that they could hit the home run and say, hey, told you so, because
we all do that though.
It's so weird because as a fan, you can sit back and like have no care. Like you just watch. But as a content creator, especially if you're a content creator / fan, there's content creators / armchair quarterbacks, content creators / general managers, wannabes, and then there's like content creator / fan. I know that's a little bit different layers, but
yeah,
the reality
I
is that when you watch content, you say,
I love that though.
What is this guy trying to be? Is this guy trying to be Mike Francesca or is he trying to be like
Dave Gettleman Jr.
Dave Gettleman Jr. I hate to point this guy, but bad dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's clear as day to me that he watched a lot of Mike and the Mad Dog, and he wants to be Chris Russo desperately, and he wants to have that life. Fine, like good. If that's what he wants to try to duplicate on YouTube,
I think everyone has something like that, don't they?
Be crew. Yeah, I mean, everyone's got their own thing. Like my point being is that's how I evaluate content creators. As I say, okay, what is this guy trying to be? What is his goal? What is he wanting to accomplish with his content? Right? It's not just Giants. Like, oh, he's just giving me more Giant stuff. Because in the end of the day, we all have our own individual goals. While we talk about our favorite teams, our favorite content, whatever. So I look at people from that standpoint of like, okay, Giants content. What are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do? And so I think that there are some out there that, they say Malik Willis, for example, and it just makes them look so good. Like, home run, I'm smart, look at me, I was right, you were wrong, yada, 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 right? And I did that a little bit. I kind of bought into that because I was telling everybody like, hey, we're drafting Sauce Gardner. We're drafting Sauce Gardner. If you follow me, I didn't do it so much on YouTube, but I did a lot on Twitter.
Yep.
Because I just firmly believed that we were drafting Sauce Gardner. And I still believe if he would have been there that they would have done that. Ultimately, the Jets got him. But the reality is like when you're a content creator, you have to put out content, and you're gonna have an opinion on one way or the other, and you know, unfortunately, you have to be good, or you have to be like bad or good. And see, that's where I get a little messed up, because me as the fan, I put that person forefront in the front, and I say, yeah, get out there and work. Get out there and try your ass off, Nate Solder, for example, right?
Yep, yeah.
Knowing damn well in the back of my head, Nate Solder sucks. But if I see Nate Solder, like I remember one play last year, Nate Solder had like actually this really nice block where he picked up a rusher on the edge, which if he doesn't pick him up,
Jones cracked.
Jones gets cracked and gets sacked, but he actually made a good play. He picked up, and it led to Jones throwing a touchdown pass to Sterling Shepard. And so,
against the Broncos.
Yeah, and I think it was the Broncos. I think it was
game 1 last year, right?
I can't.
I don't remember.
I know it was early, but I can't. But I remember I ran to Twitter and made this video where it's like, look at Nate Solder, boom, like great play, because so many times like he would always get like hate.
Yeah, people didn't like him. Giants community.
Always hate.
Yeah.
But like I as the fan, I'm like, I would be on the sideline slapping him on the ass, like, come on, Nate, show him prove him, show him that you can do it. Like that's the kind of person I am, because like the dude's on the roster, dude's getting a check. We need him to work, right? So I'm not gonna sit back and just like have this smug look on my face, like, yeah, he sucks. Watch, he's gonna give up a sack. Yeah, I told you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know he stinks, but my point is, I'm rooting for him, and so that's where me and the other content creators butt heads, because I know he sucks. I get it. You've made 10,000 videos showing me that he sucks. I get it, dude. But guess what? I'm going to take the approach of I'm going to root my ass off.
Yeah, so you're telling me, so basically you as a content creator, you bring the fan forward to your content, and a lot of other people bring the football analyzer, the geek.
Yes.
The geek.
Yes.
I feel like
I call it the geek.
I got to get a shirt that says geek for when I'm on here, because I do it too. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I don't. But
let me say this, Will. I call those guys. I say geek. First of all, it's not even a derogatory.
No, it's not harsh at all. That's why I'm laughing about it.
It's so friendly. It's such a friendly like
Pizzle. People give you some mean tweets, and then you literally just go back geek.
I do.
I was doing my research, and I'm like, hey, there it is.
But what's funny, but if you think about it, right? If you were in a classroom, right, and somebody like you're Joe Cool, right, sitting in the back of the class, like, hey, I'm not gonna sit in the front of the class. I'm going to sit in the back. And then somebody's like knew all the answers. What would you call them?
Yeah,
you call them a geek. But like that's what a lot of the is like. They have all the answers, right? They have everything that's supposed to be right and wrong, and like it's so easy to do the general manager position job. So with
the information we have, it's much easier. Like you said earlier, we didn't know what was going on with Solder and Parrott in the back. We don't know all those things. But
I'm not making an excuse for Dave. But what if like Nate Solder was the only offensive tackle that was willing to say yes to the Giants offer? Like we don't know.
And that brings me back to why Dave had to go, because he wasn't building depth the right way. That was my problem with Dave.
Look, Dave. The thing that Dave didn't do for me that he promised was right. He's going to bring the hog mollies.
He didn't do it. He literally went a whole year, didn't draft any or pick up any in free agency, Pizzle, all of last year. Like, come on, that to me. And the problem is when you. This is the example.
I can't.
I know you're not going to defend him here.
It's hard. It's hard. You can't defend him. Like,
no, that's the point.
The teams didn't win, but I will say this. And this is the thing that I kind of bicker with content creators now, is like I also think that as poor of a job that Dave kind of did, Joe Judge did an equally poor job.
You're not going to hear me complain. There's two things we learned at the end of last year. Dave didn't build a good roster with depth, and Judge couldn't coach when things went shitty. Those are the two things we learned.
And as a coach, like you said like a quarterback could elevate the team, right?
So can a coach.
Well, a coach can also elevate your team. If you don't have the talent, you have to find creative ways to win the game.
Absolutely.
Creative ways to find a way. And so this is another thing that I kind of go at to content creators, because you may have even like it may happen tomorrow. It could happen this afternoon, like where you'll see a random like Dave Gettleman hate post on Twitter, or might see a video on YouTube, and it's like, dude, I get it. Like, Dave sucks. I got it. Okay. Where's the Joe Judge hate? Because and the reality is that most of us, including myself, we told everybody that Joe Judge was it. We said this guy's the next Bill Parcells. This is it. And content creators don't want to admit that they were wrong.
I've seen some though.
They don't want to do it though. And so they continue to push the narrative of it was all Dave Gettleman's fault. It was all this old man's fault. The dude was just an old man sitting in a suite, and Joe Judge was the with his blinded. But Joe Judge was the one on the field coaching these guys. And like it was funny. And I actually see, and I didn't want to say, I haven't said nothing yet, but it's like, do you remember the picture of Joe Judge sliding into the mud with the football?
Yeah, okay.
But do you remember that, right?
Of course.
And do you remember how content creators and us fans ate that up?
Everyone retweeted it. I retweeted it, Pizzle. I did. I'm a victim of this.
Okay, guess what? What did we just do 2 days ago, or a couple days ago?
Yeah, we had a picture of Joe Shane throwing the ball.
Exactly. We had video, we had pictures. Oh, we just loved it. It's oh God, he threw a football. Like it's like, he just landed a rocket ship on the moon or something. Like we did.
It's a cycle. It's a cycle. We're Giants fans.
But that's what I'm saying, Will. It's like nobody, and we're just like, most of these guys are just, and I call them geeks, but they're like zombies, where they're just like, oh, like he threw the ball. And it's like, dude, we just did this with Joe Judge. Why are you doing this again? And then like Dave Bull's out there wearing damn Jordans, right? And we're like, oh God, Jordans. And it's like, they're just shoes. Like,
Pizzle,
what are you doing?
I'm gonna use my same argument. It's just been so bad these past couple months. When your GM could throw a football, good God, it makes you feel. I'm not gonna lie. I was in the car traveling. I smiled. I retweeted it. I'm a nerd. I'm a geek.
But Will, people call me crazy.
No, I get. I'm
literally showing you an example of like what I'm where I think we get our expectations super high. They don't meet them. We then throw them off the cliff, and then just expect the National Football League, which is a hard league to probably win a game in, right?
I can't.
And so it's like
doesn't get enough respect.
Doesn't get, like, these guys don't get enough respect, and I understand if you're gonna play in New York, right? If you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere, right? You've got to have a standard, but man, like, we as a fan base, we do the geekiest stuff sometimes that just makes me just roll my eyes and just wonder, why do we do these things? And so my content on YouTube, I try to challenge fans to not be that way, to not think that way, to not allow yourself to buy into this weird ass hype that we give people.
So a couple things. First thing that's kind of funny is my girlfriend, who's really into the Giants with me, when we hired Dable and Shane, I was super excited, and she told me, I swear you were saying the same crap 2 years ago about Joe Judge. So if it makes you feel better, I have someone keeping me in check she literally hasn't watched anything. She goes, I'm not going to believe anything till they win a football game. So she won't watch any of the Giants life with me because I'm over here geeking out, enjoying all this stuff because I'm like, this is it. This is the answer. We're ready to go. And she's like, what are you talking about? So
the power of the partner is a real thing, and it's a great thing. But it's good to think like that.
Yeah, of course.
It's good to check yourself and say, wait a minute, like, I am super excited. It's like going on a car lot and just buying the first car you've seen and saying, damn, I don't need to test drive this thing at all. I just saw it and it looks great. I'm buying it.
I'm going to stick up, though, for my content creators here, though. Like, I've heard Tana say so many times, on his live streams, he's like, yeah, I'm excited, but like, don't get too hyped yet. Like, he's trying to keep it under control. I've heard Bad Dog say the same thing. I've even heard Mike Too Nice say the same thing. He says, I really like what they're doing. He goes, but let's keep it at an even keel. I think a lot of Giants fans, again, agree with you. The reason I'm excited about it is because when we hired Joe Judge, and this is just the truth, Pizzle, we convinced ourselves as a Giants community Joe Judge was the right guy. Because if you looked up Joe Judge before we hired him, there was one interview of him talking about Antonio Brown as the Patriots wide receivers coach on YouTube. That was it. There was nothing. Brian Daboll and Joe Shane were two of the most coveted guys this offseason. For better or for worse, at least when you look up Brian Daboll, there's a ton of interviews, him being the offensive coordinator. We can see his work. Now, of course, Josh Allen, Brian Daboll, what's that split? We're going to learn. But I think for me at least, I'm like, oh no, I follow the Bills pretty closely. The way Brandon Beane has built the Bills is the way I would build a football team, being a newer football fan. And then seeing that philosophy come over here, yeah, I'm excited about it. And yeah, when he's throwing the football, you're right. It's as silly as Joe Judge sliding. But it's just everything has hurt so much recently, Pizzle. I'm just excited.
Let me give you my approach.
Yeah, go for it.
And I'm happy. If
yeah, and you said that too. You said you're excited. Your last video, you said that. I heard you.
Bring on the excitement. But Mara and our owners made two mistakes in their hires previously.
Yep.
Pat Shurmur was a last minute kind of hire deal. We didn't get to really look at all the eggs in that basket. You know, they had an issue. They didn't know what to do with Doo-Doo Head, right?
McAdoo.
They didn't know what to do with him.
I was a geek about McAdoo after that 11-5 season. I have a tweet. I have a tweet where I said, "Can't wait for next year, pushing the Super Bowl." Look how that turned out.
I was too. And then when you benched Eli,
yeah, done.
I cut ties with you. I mean, you lost me there.
By the way, Pizzle, just before, we are at an hour, but I'm down to keep going if you are. I'm enjoying. Just if you have a time constraint, just let me know.
Okay, I'm good.
Right.
So they fumbled that, and then they ultimately had to do Shurmur, which I don't. And this is why I think Gettleman got an extension or got to continue to be the general manager, because the people in the building, the people making decisions like Mara, they knew that Shurmur wasn't exactly what it wasn't a fair shake for Gettleman. Okay. He was late in the game. It was a late hire, and he was basically the leftovers. So they get Shurmur, right? Clearly the Shurmur thing, that guy is, I think he's a good coordinator, but he's not a head coach.
A lot of coaches that happens to.
There's nothing wrong with that, right? Nothing wrong with that.
That could be Brian Daboll. I hope not, but it could be. I hope not.
It could be. Hey, that's a great point, right? I mean, could be Daboll. We'll see. Like, there's some coaches that are like that. So they gave Gettleman this opportunity to go get their next guy. I truly believe that Matt Rule was the guy.
Yeah,
I think when Rule said, I'm going to go be in Carolina. I'm
get paid $1 million.
I'm going to go get this fat check for my family, and I'm going to go coach in a market that's a lot chiller, not going to be hard on me, because Rule had time with the Giants.
Yep.
He was part of this organization at one time, and that's why I think Gettleman. And then when Rule got, if you remember, it was as soon as Rule got hired, Joe Judge got announced like right after, and I think that they didn't want the media or the market to believe that they didn't get their guy.
Yep, of course.
And I think they settled on Judge when they really wanted Rule. Do we know those answers? Will we ever know?
No.
Probably not. But that's what I think happened. Okay, so they didn't get their guy. They settled for Judge, and this is why I think it's different. And no, you don't ever hear anybody ever talk about this content. And I wish content creators would be a little bit more like-minded to me. I should say. But I think they actually got their guy this time, and I think
I do too. I did.
I think Joe Shane, which obviously they get their general manager right. You're going to bring in some new blood, and I think Joe got his guy in Daboll.
And that's what's exciting, is because Mara's stepping back.
Because I feel like for the first time in years, they actually got their guy. And so But I made a video after the last season and said, like, look, getting a new general manager and getting a new coach probably isn't enough. Like, they need to do a whole remodel. I went as far as say, like, change the field. Like, let's go back to grass. Like, let's paint the building or something. And you've seen Joe Shane come in and like, hey, dude, you got to go. Like, you're out. You're out. You're out. And I'm bringing in some new
How do you
blood.
feel about
And
that?
I love that.
Me too.
I love
Yeah,
because, like, look, as much as I appreciate a lot of the people that have done good things and been with the organization for a long time and we've had winning success, and we've went through a sour patch and bad patch. There is sometimes that in life you got to make changes. Like, shit,
Either
man, I got to stop eating the cheeseburgers. It's time for me to get on the treadmill, right? I mean,
Pizzle.
I gotta look in the mirror.
You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. It's the
There you
truest
go.
statement in football. It's so
What
true.
what a geek, right?
Pizzle, I'm telling you.
But I mean, no, it's right. I mean, you've got to eventually look at yourself and evaluate yourself and say, look, this isn't enough. Like, this, we have to be better. And like, I have been hard on Mara, and this is what I wish. Again, this is going back to the content creators and the fans. I hope that they appreciate what Mara is trying to. I know we've been
You
hard
gotta
on
listen
Mara.
to the Snowcast, man. I've been talking about. No, I'm just kidding. Just
No,
kidding. But
I want to point it out. It's like,
yeah, I've been saying this though. Mara stepping back is a hard thing for him to do, and we
it's a
should be
hard thing.
appreciative.
Every single one of us, if we own the New York Giants, would not want to relinquish that control, because if you love something, you don't want to see somebody else. If you love a car, like, let's just say you got a Corvette or whatever badass ride you got, and you're like, man, I love that. You don't want to see anybody else driving your car. Heck, I saw that funny story. And this wasn't a badass car. It was a little college car I had back in the day. I had a Nissan 200 SX, right? This
Okay.
little it was a 4-cylinder car, and it was candy apple red. I put rims on it, these stupid chrome rims, and
Sounds kind of geeky.
I was young and dumb and stupid, but it was very flashy. It was very, look at me, right? Very Pizzle. And I crashed that car. I crashed the shit out of it. And it was the only crash I ever had, but it was really sad that I crashed it. And I ended up, selling it or whatever. And this guy fixed it up, and, he had put a new front end. But anyways, I saw that car a couple weeks ago, and that car's been long gone from my life. But I saw it, and it just, like, it was kind of hard. It would kind of like hit me for a second, like, man, that's my old car. Like, and so and the point I say that is because, like, you get attached to things super easily, and I couldn't imagine being attached to
A team
or having ownership of a team
that
like
your dad ran.
Your dad, they bought it. He had goes back to buying it for $500, right? Like,
Yeah.
starting the organization.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine saying, all right, yeah, I don't know you from Adam. Like, I just hired you, and I'm gonna let you run. Like the love you have to have for something to give it up because you're not capable of doing it the way you want to do it. Like, that says something. And so what I really hope is that content creators and fans alike really just cut him some slack right now. And
Yeah.
I saw
It's a fair take.
You
You have to say it like that on Twitter, though, Pizzle.
Hey, I don't,
You'll get more love. I got some.
No.
You can't go on Tanner's thing and it's something about your nuts.
Yeah, well, the problem with Tanner is this. Okay, this is the thing with Tanner is I think me and actually Entertainer, we think we're very like-minded.
I watched some streams with you guys. That's what introduced me to you initially.
I think me and Tanner think very much alike. My problem with Tanner is Tanner will be just from watching his content, he's very much of a yes man.
I disagree. Yeah, I disagree. Here's our big disagreement.
I think he will bend. I don't think he actually does this, but I can't think of a better word. But this is a use that I've used this term in a derogatory way to other fans. Like, I think he kind of bends the knee to his subscribers. I really do. I feel that way. I do feel that way. And so, but that doesn't mean that he's not a nice guy. That doesn't mean that I don't think he's similar. But I think that if the narrative on his channel, because he's got some wild ass fans.
Of course, he's like the
Subscribers.
king of Giants YouTube.
Anytime he comments on anything I put on Twitter, I just roll my eyes because I'm like, okay, here comes the damn entertainer brigade.
Okay, well,
you know,
well, that's fair.
It's like a trait. And then because like they're not like-minded. They're different. And so I think that he and it's funny because I remember Tainer, like, I remember when he was I don't want to say he was struggling, but I remember him calling me. He was doing it first like on YouTube, like a cooking show or some sort. He was doing like a Giants it wasn't, I don't think it was going to be a good thing. And I remember talking to him about his channel and giving him some advice. I'm not taking full credit for what he's done, but I do remember giving him some advice and how I thought would go about it. And I would not do what Entertainer does. Like I couldn't, like I was, for years I had people kind of telling me to take that role, to do what he does, and then he showed up and did it, and I couldn't.
Let me tell you,
putting that kind of time into it. But
yeah, he puts a lot of time.
I wanted to say that, it's just, I just feel like the narrative, whatever the narrative is, the commenters, because and that's not his fault too, because YouTube, sometimes you want to entertain your audience because you want your audience to continue to come back, right? So you kind of have to sometimes always bend the knee. So I say that in a fair way to him, but there are content creators, and I'm not saying he's one of them, that understand what the hot topic is and what hey, if tomorrow the hot thing was release Daniel Jones now, there are some that will go straight to that and say, yeah, we need to release, because they know that's what the audience is.
So my question is, with the let's take the Malik Willis to the Giants.
Sure.
Do you think, in your humble opinion, do you think the narrative that let's say just the Giants mass was to draft him or not to draft him?
You think the narrative of the
no,
fan base?
I'm asking you, what do you think the fan base narrative was like? Because from my perspective,
I think if you were edgy and you wanted to live on the edge a little bit, don't draft him. I think the majority narrative was let's ride Daniel one more year.
Yeah, I guess I just remember, I've been following Tana for a long time, and I know I'm not meaning to single him out. But I mean, he took heat in some of his live streams where he would very adamantly be like, no, this is ridiculous, this is wrong. Like,
I think sometimes he does come to his senses. I do, but there's some instances where
I don't know.
Like, I consume content, and like I do it secretly. Okay, I don't. Like,
I figure you're not commenting and liking.
Oh yeah, that. Because some of it is.
You have a burner account.
No, I don't.
I do.
I swear to it. Anybody that's listening, that I do not have a burner account.
I do actually, for some reason.
I sincerely do not have a burner, but I have. There are times where I've put stuff in there, and then I don't want to. I do have we have common subscribers too, and so like I don't want to steal whatever's going on with him, and if it's his show or whatever, like I just let him do his thing and I'll just sit back. But there's sometimes where I'll listen, and look, it's fun for me, right? I mean, I'm consuming his content or anybody else's content, and I'll hear him say something and I'm like, oh no, he's agreeing with the masses on this one. There's no way he thinks.
Do you have any off the top of your mind, any takes? I'm just curious if I agree with them.
I mean, this goes over a few years. I don't want to really pinpoint any off the top right now, but there's been times where because I mean, even he's went, and he's at his grow on this, but he didn't want Daniel Jones.
No, look at his video. Come on, he owns that one.
He owns that one, so I give him respect for owning that one. But he didn't want Daniel, and then he wanted Daniel, and back and forth, and look, that's fine. Like I think that was it's okay to eat crow on stuff, but when you're watching a live stream for 2-3 hours and there's so many questions, and I understand that some guys are super chatting, and so like you feel obligated to be nice and things like that. There's sometimes where you hear stuff and you're like, there's no way he actually believes this. And
Yeah,
then
maybe,
there's
maybe.
some that I'm like, okay, I'm glad I'm there's sometimes where it's funny because like you hear, and this doesn't just him, but this is other content creators too, where they're live and you have the answer that you want them to say, and it's almost like you're rallying them to say it. Like, yeah, just say it. Yeah, just say what yeah. And then like you're just like, yeah, put that commenter in his place. It's like
I think
that's
one
the
of the
fun part. That's the
yeah.
fun part in me because and I feel that way too when I'm doing my content and I'm live. I kind of think like, man, what is you want to entertain, you want to give your audience um, a good show. And look, I try to come off like I know everything, but at the same
Everyone
time,
does. Everyone does.
at the same time, I also tell a lot of people that like I could be wrong,
Yep.
and that's the biggest thing that that's the biggest beef that I have with some is like I just don't feel like they come off that way. And so, believe it or not, Pizzle's got some humbleness to him.
Pizzle, you're two different animals, man.
Um,
I get you in this
I'm,
podcast, and I watch your Pizzle. When I commented, I was like, I'm gonna have Pizzle on, and we're gonna disagree on a ton of crap. And then I started really digging into YouTube because I do a lot of research on people before I have them on. And so I was going back and I was watching a bunch of your YouTube videos, recent ones. I'm like, nope, I agree with that. Shit, I agree with that one. And then I went on Twitter. I'm like, there it is. There's what I can disagree with. There's Pizzle. There's the Pizzle I thought I was getting.
Look, I'll be honest with you. I think there's a lot of people that really think that
You just come strong on Twitter, my friend.
I'm very strong.
The reason you and me, I think, have a really nice, cordial, like we've just gone back and forth, obviously agreed on things. Like you've never come after me because I'm obviously not a big content creator, but I've definitely seen you have other interactions with content creators where they get offended, and then the YouTube conversation turns into more arguing than.
Well, yeah. I mean, here's the thing too, and I'll let. Well, first of all, let me say this, and then I'm going to kind of reveal I'm going to reveal myself out from behind the curtain a little bit. So you're going to get exclusive access to something that no one else is.
Here on the Snowcast.
You're going to get on the Snowcast. So number one, I am the guy that thirst for. You ever have like any road rage or anything?
Oh yeah, it's blood sports. You love it.
I am the guy that I want somebody to flick me off.
Yeah, you love it.
I'm here for that. Okay.
Duly noted.
I'm the guy in the middle of the night hoping somebody breaks into my house. Like I'm ready for it, right? Most people don't want that.
Yeah, I don't want that.
I'm like, please bring that shit on. Like I'm ready to go. Like, and if you know what, I may lose, but the fact is like
you're ready
bring it
to
on,
go.
right? But here's the thing. I'm going to say this, and this is the part I'm going to reveal back. I shouldn't say this, but
you don't have to if you don't want to.
No, I'm gonna say it. But only because I've had a good time on here. I spent a lot of years putting out Giants content when it wasn't cool to be on YouTube. Okay, and there was a lot of years there where I was a little bit self-conscious about myself and a little bit just nervous about the idea of putting myself out there and taking a lot of heat, but really just trying to give the Giants some like just people that were looking for Giants content. I was trying to put it out there.
Okay.
Knowing that it wasn't that good, because when I first started, all I had was I was a broke college student. I didn't have any money. I had an Xbox 360 camera that I'd never used. I didn't even have an Xbox. I had a headset, had a mic that was actually, well, hold on. I had a mic that worked barely, and I had sunglasses that I wore, and one of the arms on the glasses was actually broken. Like they didn't. I would hide it underneath my hat.
Wasn't that why you were more tilted to the left as well too?
I don't know about that, but I had broken sunglasses. I had a junky Xbox 360. I mean, I had the worst of the worst. Most of those videos I've put private, but I still have a video or two. I still have my very first.
Yeah, they're
video
still up there. I watched it this morning actually.
I have and the fact is like I know that it wasn't the best quality, right? 2007, but I felt like the Giants team needed somebody to put content out there, needed somebody to at least represent them. And, I was always self conscious about my accent because I'm from the South. I was always self conscious about what I was putting out there. I was nervous, but nobody else was really doing it. Nobody. And I thirsted for uh, that New York accent, those New York guys to come on. The guys that I grew up watching on TV, the fans, they wore the giant hard hats, right? And they just were New Jersey, New York, and so I wanted those guys to come on, and I just put in a lot of years and a lot of effort, and there was a lot of content creators that popped up, and they didn't really acknowledge that. They didn't acknowledge uh, that I had put I'd built a platform, kind of, and I look, I didn't build YouTube, but there was a base of fans that were on YouTube and a base of subscribers that were being carried a little bit by me and a couple other guys too. I'm not taking ownership of that. And the fact is, it made it easier for when other content creators came to have a nice, safe landing spot. I remember making content and only getting 10 views a video and thinking like, man, this is amazing. I got 10 views, you know? And so when I get 1,000 or whatever now, whatever I get now, it just blows me away that I would even get that. But the fact is like there were so many content creators that didn't really acknowledge those that came before them and helped, start a base that you're going to be a little salty about those things, right? I mean, you're going to be a little bit. Um,
Yeah, I get you. Okay.
I don't know. I don't really know what the right word to use, but it's you're when you. It's easy now to jump on YouTube and start making content.
I can tell you from experience.
It's super easy now. I mean, anybody can do it, but during that time period, when I first started, it wasn't easy. It really wasn't. It was a different world. It was a different platform. It was if you think about it, like I mean, there was a time when I was making content for the Giants and being worried about my cell phone number getting put out there, for God's sakes. Just and now you wouldn't ever think of that.
Yeah.
The way YouTube is. And look, I appreciate anybody that's ever, and that's why I like Entertainer when he didn't have a lot going on and he was low on numbers. That's why I was happy to help him at the very beginning. And anybody that comes on, because I remember not having a lot of viewers, and then at the same time not having a lot of stuff on there. And then now it's like I think it's probably easy just to pop on there, put a thumbnail to it, right? Throw it on Twitter. Twitter wasn't even really
a lot of different mediums to promote.
There's a lot of different mediums to promote. I remember I put one of my very first videos on the Giants message boards on Giants.com, because that's actually where I originally would get a lot of my content. At first was like I would go every day. We're talking about like early 2000s, like 2005, 2006. 2004, I would go on Giants message boards every single day, at least once a day, and just read any of the threads. I'd start a thread. I would comment on threads and things like that. And I remember making content and then putting a couple of them on there. And a couple of people found me and came over and started watching it. But I got a lot of heat for how I was doing it and what I was doing, and you just see people come on now, and it's just like, I have a lot of pride that my channel. There's no channel on YouTube that's been supporting and talking about the Giants longer than me, and so I take a lot of pride in that. But at the same time, it's like you just want your respect. That's all. That you just want the respect that you feel like you've earned and been given. And so when you see guys not acknowledge that, you're like, okay, well, I can be that way too. And so you just question things and you put that stuff out there. And look, I get there's a lot of people that might see my content and think, well, that guy's a clown, that guy's acting this way, he's doing that. But if you're not capable of having a good time or thinking outside the box or having fun, then you're never going to get my channel, right?
Fair
if
enough.
you go on there and if you go on YouTube and you just, you know, want this analytical, no nonsense approach, well, then you're probably not going to enjoy my content. You'll enjoy someone else's. But
But
at the
that's
end of
what
the
makes
day,
Giants. That's what makes the Giants community so great. Was we do
that's
have someone like you,
that that's
and Pizzle.
that's great.
I don't agree with a lot of the stuff, but when I am always entertained. I never leave and go, oh, that video was bullshit.
Well, I will say this: I come from an older school of YouTube, and it was hard. And back then, entertainment was hard to reach them. Again, when you have terrible quality, like an Xbox
Yeah, that makes
360
it
camera,
tougher for sure.
you've got to, which is so funny too, because like you go to Best Buy or any kind of electronic store, they have got all this like stuff like for podcasting and YouTube content. Like
It's
they
like
have,
$150 and you're good to go.
but there's so many like in 2006, 2007, that stuff did not exist.
Yep. Yeah.
Like I know it's hard for people to believe that, but that stuff did not exist. I mean, you didn't have those things. There was a lot of grainy video content being created by a lot of people, so you had to be somewhat entertaining, and you had to have something. You had to bring something else to the table. You couldn't just sit there, because it was funny. Because like, if you sat there and like the way I looked at it was, um, if you just go on there and you kind of analytical about it, and you just said, well, I was like, well, what's different than that and me watching Dan Marino on CBS on Sunday mornings?
It's always a good thought. What makes you different?
That was what because Dan Marino was working for CBS during that time. It tells you how old it was, because he's been long gone. But it's like, you had to be different. Like you had to stand out and be something different than what you see on TV. And so that's kind of the approach I took, is I wanted to be something different. And so, people that they don't get my content, they look at that and they're like, well, I don't like, what's this guy doing, like this and that. But like at the same time, you have to understand, I come from a different time period. I come from a different era. I come from a different it's just a different perspective. And so at least you could do is acknowledge the fact, like, hey, this guy was here trying to build a foundation, trying to put out a platform so that other Giant content creators, because if you go back and watch a lot of that content, those that I still have up, I was begging for other Giant fans to come on, begging other people to like, hey, come aboard. Like, let's build. I used to call it Giants Nation at the time. And then I had a group that I called Giants Mafia, which I swear to this day, Bill's Mafia got it from me, because Bill's Mafia, because I made a video in 2007 when the Giants made the Super Bowl. I had a group of fellow Giant fans, and we made a video where we did the any given Sunday speech. It's a movie scene. Al Pacino gave this great speech before the final big game, and I love that speech. I think it's such a great speech about life and about football, and I recreated it. And at the end of it, we said Giants Mafia. Well, that was 2007, and Bill's Mafia didn't show up, and that video got like, I think at the time, like 50,000 views, which was really good during that time period.
Of course, yeah, sure.
I know it ain't good now, but like it's really good during that time period. And I swear that somebody found that and said Bill's Mafia. I don't ever talk about it anymore, but like in the back of my head, I'm like, I think that's possibly where that started. That could be
Hey, you manifested it, because now we have Bills guys here.
Which Bills, yeah, and so like, I think it's funny. It's kind of came full circle, but
well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing that, though.
Yeah, that's. I don't ever kind of like pull back the curtain on that.
Yeah, we get a certain brand of Pizzle on YouTube. We get like level 5, and then Twitter we get like level 12, and 10's usually the highest. But then you get level 12 Pizzle on Twitter. So
I definitely like to have. I definitely like to challenge people. I remember I think, I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago, I challenged Bobby Skinner from Talking Giants, and just pushing his buttons, because again, here's the thing, like you're not gonna give any credit to the guy that's been laying the foundation, been putting in the time. Like, okay, well, that guy's gonna come push your buttons a little bit to see, because here's the thing, I want to say this too, because some people might think it's like an ego thing, but like I got my buttons pushed when I first joined. I mean, everybody was pushing my buttons on.
The only thing, yeah,
What's the can you even name the 5 starting offensive linemen? Like, I mean, shit like that. Like, I was getting just push, 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 and so it's like, okay, you got to earn your stripes.
the only
And so
that's fair, but that mentality, I think it's that old school against new school though. It's like,
it is
because I'm going to be honest with you, like I've definitely had disagreements with different content creators, but the way you approach it on Twitter, you're not going to get the response where, you and me are lucky to able to have this conversation because there's never been beef between us. There's never been anything where, oh, I did something. I don't think it's easy to offend you, but like where I was offended, where, me being a geek, I get offended all the time. But you know what I'm saying, though?
I get that. Well, first of all, people call it beef, but I don't have beef with anybody.
Yeah, it's just on the internet. I get that, but you're not going to get the response where people come on and like, oh, hey, let's talk about football. Someone might come on and just be like, no, what the hell's going on? Like, you know what I'm saying?
That did happen. Cause so Bobby, who's obviously a big name in the Giants Twitter, or really just the Giants content creator community. He said, okay, I'll come on the channel. Well, he came on looking for a fight, and the reality is I came on. I dragged him on. Let's talk Giants football. Let's really break this down. And because I knew that Bobby and I disagreed on a few things. I knew that we didn't see eye to eye on a few things. And I thought that, and look, I think that type of content is great content. I think it's great when two people, doesn't matter if they're two Giant fans or a Giant fan and an Eagle fan. I think it's great when there's a little someone versus somebody, and let's have a real strong debate. At the end of the day, we'll shake hands and we'll go our separate ways. But let's give the subscribers and the viewers, let's give them a real good show of, hey, we're going back and forth, and at the end of the day, there's no winners or losers. There's just a great debate, and we all win because we got to hear a great debate. And so that was my intention when Bobby Skinner came on my channel.
I didn't see the tweets between you guys, but I know your brand of tweet though, Pizzle.
But ultimately, he came on and he was looking for a fight. He would not talk any Giants football with me. We went live.
And we know Bobby knows his Giants football, though. I'm not
saying Bobby doesn't know Giants football. That's not what I'm saying. Look, I know his buddy Justin knows Giants football. That's not the point. The point is that we had a disagreement on a few things, on a few ideas, and I just wanted to. I wanted to discuss those things. I wanted to talk about them. And when he wasn't interested in talking about them, it kind of upset me in the end, because it was like, we could have had a great show. Instead, you just, played pity patty. You threw a pity party. And so, when guys, if they understood that, like, hey, look, at the end of the day, it's all about Giants football. That's what it's always about anyways. We can all have our own different personalities and opinions and the way we think, but at the end of the day, let's bring that to the table and let's just talk Giants ball. What I hate, this is as a consumer, as someone who consumes the content, the idea of a round table discussion, right? You see them all the time on YouTube where it's like you'll get 4 Giant content creators together and we're going to have a Giants round table discussion, right? The worst is when you get a 2 or 3 hour session and you've got 4 guys that are just completely agreeing with one another. And I'm not saying that we can't have a kumbaya session where we all sit by the fire and just love Giants football equally, but it's impossible that we're all going to think like-minded.
That's fair.
It's impossible. And so when you don't get that true content and you don't get the true meaning, it's like we're just wasting our time here.
I agree with that. I agree with it. I guess my only pushback would be if you want those responses, those conversations, like the way you and me went through it on Twitter. I just DM'd you. I said, hey, I'd love to have you on. It was like very simple. When you come at people, everyone takes it differently. So Pizzle here, he's ready.
You have to understand something, Will. There is some Giant fans and content creators. Look, every one of them has seen my stuff. Every one of them has seen them, and they see it, and they think, oh, well, this guy's a clown. They sincerely do. And so, if you think that, number one, in the industry, you would call that a mark, because you're not in on the act, or you take it too serious, right? Look, do I go around introducing myself as Pizzle? Maybe, maybe not. You know. So, but do I go around wearing sunglasses?
Have you
You
ever?
know,
I
in
guess
the shower.
that's fair. That's fair. You know,
You
I
know what I'm
guess
saying?
I get what I do get what you're saying. You know, it's like, and that was like the point I made with you. It's like, hey, let's have a conversation. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
If you come at me in a very respectful way, and you come and I think that you have good intentions, and I've actually seen your stuff, and I think if I think you're sincere with your product and you're sincere with what you're doing, look, I as much as I love the Giants and I hate to share things in life, I have to share the Giants, right?
Yeah, I
I have
was gonna
I,
say that, Pizzle. When you were talking earlier, I was gonna say you do have to share it with the
yeah, I
rest of the
have to
content creators.
I have to share the Giants. So I get that, right? I understand, and I understand that there's going to be different. I'm not always going to agree with everyone's content, but at the same time, I wish that people would love and appreciate all the content. And I don't think that some people love and appreciate all the content. And I also don't think that some people are genuine. And I don't think they're sincere. And I think there is a look, I love the Giants. And I joined YouTube. And I hate to go back to this, but I joined YouTube when you didn't make money on YouTube. There was no money to be made. There was no such thing as super chats. There was no such thing as tip. There was no such thing as that. There was just. I mean, I do remember like when I first. I actually had a guy. There was a producer. He ran a channel called Katie's Opinion on YouTube, and it was this girl, very beautiful girl, who was an Eagles fan, and somehow he had found my content, and he was a producer, and he actually did somebody he had done something for a guy from American Idol, and he had done something he was running this YouTube channel for Katie's Opinion. Basically, they would just create content. They had their way of thinking was so in advance, because you know that stuff happens today with like Instagram models and things like that, right? I mean, you see it probably in every day. But anyways, he had asked me, he wanted to run a channel, and he wanted to use my, and I told him, I was like, look, I appreciate it, thank you, but I've come on YouTube just to talk about the Giants. Like I'm just here to just fruit on the Giants. I'm not here to make money. I'm not here to do it. I just want to talk about the Giants. And I respect my way of being in that. I do expect that. But when I see somebody come on YouTube and I think like, that guy's just really on here to make money,
Yeah,
he
and
doesn't
there's
really
always gonna
care,
be
and that's fine. If I'm not gonna
that is
I'm
gonna
not
be
gonna
YouTube though, you know.
no, that's fine. And look, I'll never knock anybody for the way they make money. Like if the Kardashians are gonna do what they got to do to make their
I
money,
gotta do
fine.
it.
Got to do it. Make your money. So I don't I'm not disrespecting anybody for making money, but at the same time, I don't think that the guy. I think that I think some content creators are super genuine, and they actually have real love for the Giants. And I think there are some that are just like, the Giants are just something I root for in the fall, and here's an opportunity to make some money. I think that that's a real thing. The
Yeah.
Giants are my look. There's multiple sports teams. I mean, multiple sports leagues. I love the Giants, and I love baseball. I love basketball. I love a lot of different sports, but the Giants are my number one. I would push all of any other sports team that I like away. I could never let the Giants go. Never. They would always be my number one. So, I'm very protective of them as a fan.
I think you got to do like a session Pizzle where you let all the geeks on, and we come on and we all just
Listen,
and we all kumbaya for a little bit. No, I'm just kidding.
I
I'm
would
just
listen.
kidding.
I would. There's even if you think I have a beef with them, even like a Mike Too Nice, who I I just can't ever get on the same page with him on a lot of things. I
I'm
would
gonna
have
find
him.
a clip where you two agree, and I'm gonna send it to you.
I
I'm gonna send you your take and then his take. Like it's gonna be like just 5 seconds, and I'm gonna be like, look at this.
I would 100% have him on my channel. I would have anybody on my channel, even those
Yeah, some
that
people don't want to
completely
do it. I've reached out to
But
some people who don't want to do it.
and I know that some people are not into a confrontational thing, or they don't want to run into the burning house. But I love that. I'm ready for that, right? I'm ready. So when I had Bobby on and I could tell he was going to be hot, I could tell there was some heat there. I was like, okay, this will be cool. I'll enjoy this. but he didn't take it the way I want. Now, some of you may say, well, what happens when that day comes when, you know, you see that person in person, right? Because that day is eventually going to come. And the thing about that is, like, I've always looked at it like, if you're a person that's ready to throw down and fight, like if you want to fight, for example, because you and someone
I don't think
said some
anyone
things.
wants to fight you, Pizzle.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm just saying, like, because some people think like that. To me, you've lost. If you've already got that emotional about something like that, you've lost. No matter what, no matter the outcome of what happens, you've already got to you've got so emotional, and you clearly have let myself build real estate in your head. And at the end of the day, we're just talking Giants football. That's it. That's all we're
fair.
doing. So that's really, it's not like we're talking about finances and I'm saying, like, listen, dude, you're really broke, or like I'm not saying anything. It's just, we're just talking about Giants football.
Well,
And so
Pizzle,
I think it's great when people disagree. I do
I
think
want you to try this for me, okay? If you would. Calmer, just take it down to a level 10 on Twitter, not level 12.
I like level 12.
I know you do. I know you do. I don't think
It's
there's
a
going
lot
to be
of fun.
any convincing you.
Well, I do think there are some people too, like you said, you have a burner account. I think that there's a lot of content creators that got burner accounts.
Of course.
And I think, and so it's like, I always think, okay, it's funny because I actually play this little game with myself, and I'm like, okay, that's so-and-so's burner, so I'm going to give them the business.
You'll have to tell me who mine is.
Well, I have to do some digging, but it's so funny because I'll do that, and which is actually funny because it's actually went against me before, because there was a Gettleman. There was somebody had created a Gettleman
Burner account.
No, it was a burner account, but the way they would put their words was with his accent. So, like, instead of spelling God, they would do GAWD
or GAHD. God.
Yeah. So yeah, God. Yeah, like that. So
that's pretty good.
And so I was like, you know what? I think this is one of, like, Justin or Bobby from Talking. I think it's one of their burner accounts.
Oh.
I swear it is. So, like, I used to be super rude to that account, like, just mean to it. And so what
can't
was funny
prove nor
about,
deny here on the Snowcast, though.
What's funny is the guy that actually ran the account eventually revealed himself to me, and he had me on he had me on a YouTube round table one night, and I was sitting there thinking, like, this guy is actually really cool. He's really awesome.
Pizzle, that's my experience of you. I was waiting.
This guy made a great Twitter account, and here I was sitting there thinking, like, he was this person that was just making fun of me, but hiding, right? Because that's what you're doing. I mean, if you make a burner account, you're really just hiding.
Fair enough.
But when he was,
I don't have a burner Twitter, by the way.
But that's what my thought was like,
yeah,
oh, he's just
enough.
hiding behind who he really is. And so, when I found out, I was like, shit, like, I shouldn't have said some of the things I probably said to this. But what was funny was I was pro Gettleman, so, like, I couldn't really say, like, you suck, Gettleman, like,
yeah, of course.
I always had to be, like, kind of like side smack him kind of deal, like, just kind of this, not really like a full punch, but just like a little Will Smith smack kind of deal. And so, because there's two different, I mean, if you smack somebody, punching somebody and smacking somebody are
two different things.
But it was so funny when I found out who he was.
That's hilarious.
I was really glad that he did, because I always thought that it was one of my arch nemesis.
Burner accounts.
Yeah, when I found out who it was, and he liked my stuff, I was like, man, that's like really awesome to hear. So I guess that's really the biggest thing, is like, I often have felt very unappreciated, and I shouldn't have felt that. I shouldn't have probably been that way, but I just do, because
Pizzle, we appreciate the authenticity here at the Snowcast.
I appreciate that, and that's when I think if people just are authentic and just give true meanings, and if you go on YouTube and you make a ton of money from Snapchat, or not Snapchats, but what are they called?
TikTok, YouTube.
No, the
ads? Super chats.
Super chats, Snapchat, super chat. If you make a lot of money, that's awesome. I think that's amazing because like, it's great that happens. But man, why would you, and if you're authentic and you're genuine, that's great. But then when you see a channel that puts out Giants content and they go out and get, Joy Taylor, for example, they go out and get them, because of clout, because of some nonsense clout, because she's a name. You would rather have that person on there than somebody who has put in 15 years of Giants content and is just all he's done is celebrate and show love to the team that you supposedly love, and you can't have that guy on your channel. You can't show that guy a little bit of love. Maybe that's me being a little petty, but the
It might
reality
be.
is,
It might be.
and I openly admit that, like, hey, I'm probably being petty on that. But at the same time, I I wanted I've always wanted to be loved by Giants fans. And the ones that do love me and love my channel, it means the world to me. It really does, because when you're a kid from, you know, bumfuck South, and you're rooting for a team like up north, the Giants, you just want to blend in with those other fans, right? I think it's all like, if I lived, I wouldn't know what to do with myself if I lived 15 minutes from MetLife or Giant Stadium. When I went to Giant Stadium, I went to Giant Stadium in 2008 before they tore it down, and I just remember just feeling uh, emotional being there, like super emotional. And not that I was sitting there crying or anything, but like I was overwhelmed, like the feeling of it. Like I couldn't like, I don't want to say I couldn't breathe, but like I just was overwhelmed with just excitement and just this feeling of just love, and just
Pizzle.
I always
Let me
wanted,
let me
you know what
tell
I'm
you.
saying?
Yeah, let me tell you. I've had you on here. Disagree on some things. Maybe disagree on some content creator opinions as well. But I am not going to question that you are a Giants fan through and
Oh
through.
no, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm just, it just,
You love it. You love
I
it.
love it. I
Yeah,
love it. I
I
remember
got you.
I have to tell this one story too. My wife, we don't know, we didn't we went to she was pregnant with our first child. We have two kids now, and she was pregnant with our first daughter. And I told her, I said, look, we're gonna have some kids, and these next couple years are gonna be tough. Uh, why don't we go to a Giants game, and why don't we splurge? Like, why don't we, like, we're just gonna get like the best possible tickets,
Best
right?
seat, best hotel, get the
We're gonna
food, get
we're gonna
drinks. Yeah, it's gonna be a good
we're
time.
gonna we're gonna spend unbelievable amounts of money just for this. And so I remember I went to Philly. I went to Philly, which was 3 days before Christmas. No, I'm sorry. Let me back up. So I ended up going to Philly 3 days before Christmas. That was the game that they went to, when they wore the Color Rush jerseys,
Yep.
the first time, and I had to go to that game because, me being an old school fan,
Those are
I had
classic. Those are the
had
classic Lawrence
I,
Taylor 1990s jerseys.
I
Yeah.
had to I had to see him in person. So I went there. I took my wife, who was several months pregnant. I took her to Philly, of all places.
Oh boy.
Like, that was not smart, but I did it anyways, and it all ended up working out. But I remember we went to see the Giants and Cowboys, and we got tickets, like, we were super low, 50-yard line, Giants side. And I don't even know, like, somehow the tickets gave us access to this, like, lounge. I don't even know
Okay.
what they called it. Like, it was like and like you would go in, and it had like this buffet of just food, and it was like high roller. Like, we don't have any business. Like, my wife and I, we're two Southern kids. We have no business where we
Chameleons.
are. Yeah, we have no business where we are right now. And I remember we just splurged, and we're among all these Giant fans, and everybody's talking, and I told my wife, I was like, I don't know about you, because I mean, she doesn't, she hardly cared about football before meeting me.
Yeah.
She didn't care about, and so
Same here.
I told her, I was like, I don't know about you, but like I'm so happy to be here right now. I'm just like I am where I'm supposed to be. I am with all my giant you know, I made friends with this guy named Tim who was from Connecticut, and you know, I'm still friends with him today. I text
That's
him,
awesome.
and he has no idea that I'm on YouTube. I never even told him. I just talked to him like that, and so I was slapping high fives with people, and my wife was like, we're so different from all these people, and I was like, I know. I was like, that's what makes it great. I was like, that's what I love about
We
it. It's
have
like this guy in front of us looks like Bruce Springsteen, but he's but he's not Bruce. But he's like, you know, it's just great, and so.
Pizzle. I have like the same kind of story because I'm from New England, so I live up in
Mhm.
Massachusetts. So everyone up here hates the Giants.
Of
So
course.
wherever I go, I get flack for it. And so last year I went to my first game, and I actually got to meet Justin, Tana, Football Grump,
Mhm.
and all these guys. And I got to have this experience where it was like, wait, all these people are also rooting for the Giants, and I'm totally with you there. It's what makes the
Yeah.
Giants the best. The fan base is the
I
best. The games are it's the best. And I got to
I
watch them beat the Eagles, which was the best.
I spent years going to games on the road, and you know, I watched them. I've watched the Giants play in Nashville. I've watched the Giants play in Cincinnati. I watched them get their ass kicked in Cincinnati, and I believe it was 2014. I can't remember what year. It might have been 13. It was we got our ass kicked. I watched them. I watched them lose in Philadelphia, and you know, you go to home. Now, I will say this: I like going to road games more than I do home
Yeah, well,
games.
it's easy to believe. I've seen your Twitter account. You like to go and get that smoke. You're going around
Yeah,
looking.
I like a little heat. Like as long as nobody touches me or throws any mustard on me, I'm good. But you know, you know, I've been in some very hostile environments, and
I heard you in your last video. You want to go to the Eagles game next year.
well, I've been to Philly, and I heard a lot of bad things about Philly. I heard terrible, you know, about how awful. And look, I'm not, and I actually went to um, so this is how much I love the Giants. This will be the telltale. So I got invited to come up to Philly by another YouTuber by the name of E-Rock, the mighty E-Rock. Okay,
Okay.
and E-Rock's just like me, makes content, and he plays a little bit of a character. And E-Rock told me at the time I was actually going to leave YouTube because I was afraid about I was my wife was pregnant, and I didn't think it would be a good thing for me to still be on YouTube while having kids. I was just very protective of that because I mean, you don't, it's the internet, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
And so I made a mention that like, okay, I think I'm going to leave YouTube. Well, E-Rock said to me, he said he made a video and said, come to Philadelphia, I got a ticket for you, just come. Now I want you to understand this. I got on an airplane. I told my wife, I brought my wife. My wife was not going to go to the game. She just was going to stay in the hotel and watch the game on TV. But I wanted her to come because we were going to like visit the city of Philadelphia and check out that. You know, we went sightseeing before the game. But I want you to understand this. I got on an airplane and had no guarantee that there was a ticket waiting on me. No guarantee. He had not sent me a ticket. He had not shown me a ticket. He just told me he made a YouTube video saying,
I
I
got
have
a
a
ticket
ticket
for
for
you.
you. I have a ticket for you. Okay. And so I fly to Philly. My wife and I, we visit. Of course, I went to the Rocky statue. We check out the arts and museum place, and we drove around and just checked things out. We just enjoyed like any other couple would. We did the Rocky steps. My wife, I was super proud of her because she did the Rocky steps while pregnant, and I thought that
Damn.
was
Yeah,
badass.
it's pretty badass.
And they're a lot harder than you realize. He makes it look super easy
He
in the movie.
does. I
He
drove by
makes it
him
look
yesterday, actually. So yes.
they are a lot harder than you realize. And so I fly to Philadelphia, and I called. Erock had gave me his number when I landed, and I called him and said, "Hey, I'm at the hotel," and he said, "Okay, we'll walk over." So nobody's going to pick me up. Okay, so the hotel was probably about a good little, I'm going to say 15-20 minute walk. I mean, it's a decent little walk. And Philadelphia has a really, I actually respect the way they did their stadiums. and their arenas. If you've ever been, they have that one massive parking lot, and they've got their baseball field, their football, the link, and then they've got Wells Fargo
It's all
Arena.
right next to each other.
They're all and it's great how it's away from the city a little bit, but I love how they utilize one massive parking lot to fit all three. So I had to walk around the baseball field, and so I'm walking down a sidewalk in the middle of Philadelphia by myself in all-out Giants gear.
There we
Okay,
go. There we go.
I am decked from head to toe in Giants gear, and actually, when I got off the airplane, there was a couple that I had a Giants hoodie on. My wife had a Giants jacket on. They had mentioned to us immediately when we got. Oh, can't believe you're wearing that here.
Yeah.
They had said that, and I was like, man, this could be brutal. So I walk from my hotel to the stadium. I find where E-Rock is tailgating. I tailgate, and you have to know, in the back of my mind, this is YouTube.
Yeah, you don't know what's actually there, what's going on.
I don't know. I'm still in the back of my mind thinking this guy is going to play me, and this is going to all be on YouTube, and I'm going to look like a fool. Luckily, we had a great tailgate. I met his family. It all worked out great. We had a great time. I talked to a lot of Eagle fans, and there were some Giant fans I'd seen, and I talked to them and had a great time. Had a great tailgate. E-Rock did give me the ticket. We did go to the game. The Giants lost. I talked a lot of shit. I had a lot of shit talked to me, and I will be honest with you. Leaving, I left. We separated. We shook hands. We separated as soon as we walked out of the gate, and I walked from the stadium back to my hotel at night by myself in my Giants gear, and took a lot of heat. Nobody touched me. Nobody spat on me or anything like that. But I took a lot of heat. I took it like a man. At the time, the Eagles weren't going anywhere, and the Giants were still one game away from going to the playoffs, so it was all okay. But the reality is, in saying that, I say all that in that I walked in the middle of the night in Philadelphia in all-out Giants gear and did it by myself. I didn't have any buddies with me. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have nothing. It was just me. And so, to me, I've went to hell and back and survived.
So nothing hurts now.
Nothing hurts. And so, in saying that, I had a great experience at Philly. I know there's some, and look, I saw some things that, you probably wouldn't want your kids to see.
Yeah, of course.
But I can handle anything, and I can handle what I went through at Philly because I have pretty thick skin. And so, actually, the environment was something that I would love to be a part of again. And I said in my video, like, hey, if it looks like the Giants are going to be in a good spot in their last game of the year and something's going to be on the line, absolutely, it's going to be after the new year. Absolutely, I would 100% try. And I would encourage any Giants fan to do it as well because, the more the merrier. But, I like going away games because, again, I think it's the home games that I've been to. It's just like super easy, because you're just like sitting back. And
I love it, but I
love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I love to hear the crowd roar when something happens good for us. No, I love that. But what I'm saying is, it's just like there's such a relaxing feel to it because you're just with so many of the same people that are with you, and then so when you go to a road game, there's kind of like. I don't want to say there's tension, but there's like there's an awareness. There's an intensity level that picks up, and that it's almost like your antenna picks up to find out, okay, who's going to be my problem? who's gonna be the person that gives me the hard time, and who's gonna? I'll be honest with you. I went to a game. I don't know if you remember this game, but the Giants had a 21-0 lead in Nashville. And lost 24-21. That was the game, if you remember, Matthias Kiwanuka, remember like Coughlin getting in his face real bad, and it was like it was on air. That was the hardest stadium that I've ever walked out of.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
And I've watched the Giants lose to the Eagles in person twice, and that stadium was super rough because they were brutal to me that day, and just because of this amazing comeback the Titans had, and boy, I got. It was awful. That was the worst one I've ever walked out of. But I just, I like going to road games. What can I say?
Hey, I feel you, my friend. I'm going to close it off here as we're right on the 2-hour mark. Pizzle, you have reached the mountaintop, the longest Snowcast episode. I will send the trophy out to you. Before I close it,
I guess I got a big mouth.
No, Pizzle, absolutely not. I wanted to get to know you. I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate you talking with a geek. I'm a loud and proud one for sure. So I appreciate you being willing to come on. I know that's not a big deal for you at all. For anyone listening, though, and watching, guys, if you're interested in checking out more of Pizzle's stuff, I'm going to have all of his links down below in the YouTube description. And if you're listening on Spotify, it'll be in the description as well there for his Twitter and his YouTube. Pizzle, thanks for being here. I really do appreciate it. And I hope to have you back, by the way. If you're willing, I would love to have you back.
I appreciate it, Will, man. And thanks for having me. At the end of the day, it's all about the Giants.
All about the Giants.
And I no matter what, no matter if I agree with anybody or any of the staff or anything like that, I just hope Giants football is back. I hope we get back to our winning ways, because believe it or not, YouTube is a lot more fun when the Giants are winning.
I'm looking forward to it.
Than when they're losing. I make some great content when they lose, but man, it's a lot of fun to be on there when they're winning.
I'm looking forward to it.
But thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. And on that note, everyone, we will see you next time.